Good afternoon. It is November 28, 1501. That's 3 p.m. in the afternoon for those of you who aren't veterans. Happy Friday. And for those of you who celebrate, happy Thanksgiving. We have a lot to talk about in the Raw Blog Journal today. But let me just talk quickly about the holidays and Thanksgiving. I have friends, clients also, who choose not to celebrate Thanksgiving because of the colonial nature of the celebration, celebrating the colonization of North America and the subjugation of the peoples that were already there. And while that is a true statement, that actually happened, the question that we want to be asking ourselves when we look at such facts is, how do we feel? How do we feel when we're experiencing those facts? And is it in our best interest to continue to look at those facts or to tell a better feeling story? Of course, it's always better to tell a better feeling story, because the facts don't really matter, because you create your reality and you can create any reality you want, even around the facts. My clients and I are discovering this powerfully. And so telling a better feeling story about this time of year, whether it accords with the facts or not, is a really good idea, especially for those who tend to suffer during this time of year. This time of year is a wonderful time of year. The changing of seasons, the drawing inward of the energy that is physical reality in preparation for the exhalation that comes in what we call the spring. Very good. Okay, let's I just want to say a little bit more before I get to the meat of my journal entry today. I have one client who chooses, two clients actually, as I said, who choose to not celebrate this particular holiday, the Thanksgiving holiday. One chooses to instead fly to Mexico and enjoy the sunny weather down there. The other chooses to reframe this time of year as a kind of memorial day for those civilizations destroyed by colonization. She feels better when she tells that what is for her the better feeling story. And it's interesting, right? I was going to say from a particular perspective, but it doesn't matter what perspective you're looking at, other than the fact that whatever perspective you're looking from is going to shape your experience. It is a fact that those civilizations were subjected to all kinds of horrors and virtually wiped out. So there are facts on any side of any subject. And you always want to be lining up with the story that has you feel the best. And when you do that, you'll see the set of facts that align with that story you tell. But more importantly, you'll feel better. And when you feel better, that tells you something you really want to know. It tells you that you're connected with your broader perspective, which is always guiding you to everything you want and you receiving it effortlessly. And it's also telling you that good feeling is telling you that the future you're moving into is going to be a good one. So good to know that. Okay, let's get down to the brass tacks of my journal today. It's been a fantastic week, and I set this up last week in my journal when I said I'd be sharing what I'm about to share this week, last week. I knew it was going to happen because this is textbook unfolding, and this has to do with the Albina One apartment complex that this week the property manager invited me to move in on December 12th. This is the culmination of an over 2-year process of manifestation. And this is important, right? These 2 years that unfolded, I maintained a high vibration and commitment and certainty, a state of certainty that this was going to unfold. over 2.5 years from the moment I had that dream to the moment I discovered the Albina Vision Trust, to the moment that I praised the construction foreman for the work they had done in building that building, and then finding out that that building was the first project of the Albina Vision Trust, to me intending to live there as a manifestation of the dream I experienced, and then through what I'm about to describe, which happened this fall. This textbook manifestation shows how important it is to stay in the vibration of the wish fulfilled. And if you can do that, the unfolding, no matter what the twists and turns are between setting your attention and realizing the manifestation, the unfolding, the manifestation must come, which is what happened here. So I've talked about this in several of my blogs and in at least one, maybe two of my YouTube videos. It's a really magnificent unfolding. So I'm not going to cover the whole thing. Well, let me just give you a summary. So 2.5 years ago, I had a dream. I had a dream that I was living in a brand new apartment that was sided. It had blue siding on it, and that I was on the top floor overlooking a beautiful view of Portland. One thing led to another, and I discovered that that building was actually being constructed. And then I discovered a story behind the building that really inspired me. And then I went to visit the organization, the Albina Vision Trust, that was building the building, and was inspired or invited to apply to live there, which I did. 3 weeks or so ago, I was invited to submit my paperwork to qualify to live in the building. And at that point, they had 3 apartments left, 3 one-bedroom apartments left. The one I ended up getting, which unfolded in this really miraculous way I described in a previous journal entry, the one I ended up getting is on the top floor with a west side view, enjoying 180-degree views of downtown Portland, what people call $1 million view. By the way, this apartment, the one I'm moving into, costs less than the studio apartment I'm living in now. But even with the utilities included in the rent, which it is, it's only about $40 more than what I'm $20 more than what I'm currently paying here for the rent alone. So it's a really, really great deal to live in a brand new apartment building and participate in the community that the Albina Vision Trust is creating. Fantastic opportunity. So I got the last one-bedroom apartment in the building, top floor, beautiful view. I submitted my paperwork, and the city has a compliance division that has to approve your income to live there, to make sure you have sufficient income, but not so much income that you don't qualify to live there. Just a quick aside on that. So I have a little bit of negative momentum around living in this apartment because it is what they call affordable housing. And I'm recognizing that I have been soothing that story for quite some time, but I'm recognizing that that old story is about worth tied to money. And the interesting thing is, today, I was meeting with an old friend of mine, 30-year friend of mine, and we were talking about, I was concerned that he felt some responsibility for my life trajectory, which has gone quite interestingly. But in that conversation, it turns out that he actually has no sense of responsibility for the choices I've made, which is accurate. And he says that he observes me as being happier now than I ever was, even though, say, 15 years ago, I was making far more money and employed by a prestigious high-tech company and had a significant role in that high-tech company. But I was miserable at that high-tech company, and the money was making no difference on the misery I was feeling. So he's right. Here I am living, enjoying this practice where my income comes from, uplifting people and enjoying that experience. And the income I receive through that practice covers all my living expenses. And it's also sufficient to qualify for living in Albina One. And so I've been soothing this story that my worth is tied to my income And the fact that I had to submit my paperwork for the compliance division in order to live there triggered those stories. It resurfaced those stories during this process. The compliance division was unable to verify my income because it's not W-2 income. My income comes through my client practice, nor is it an established verifiable source of income like retirement or Social Security or something like that. And so they sent a response back to my paperwork to the property manager saying that they could not verify my income, so I could not move into the apartment. They said I had 48 hours in order to do something to prove to them that my income was legit. And they suggested that I get a CPA, a certified public accountant, to do the necessary paperwork to prove that my income is legitimate. So at first, when I received this reply, my heart sunk a little bit. And the reason why it sank is not because I didn't think I was going to live in the apartment, because I knew it was a done deal. I was standing in the having of it, and I just knew that it was going to unfold. This was just a temporary bump on the way to that ultimate unfolding. But the reason why my heart dipped is because I had within me, and this experience surfaced it for me so that I could soothe negative stories tying my self-worth to my income, and also stories about authority, people telling me what I can and cannot do, me having to meet other people's criteria in order to enjoy what I want to enjoy. Does this sound familiar? Many people have this, including many of my clients. I'm no exception. So this was a wonderful opportunity, and I knew it as this, a wonderful opportunity to soothe this negative momentum. And the compliance division was participating as an angel for me in showing me what there was to soothe. And so I paused and I settled into my high vibration. I recognized what I just told you. And then I reached out to my friend Mark, the 30-year friend, to see if he knew of a CPA that I could work with to offer verification of my income. Mark has been in the entrepreneurial space for pretty much his whole adult life. As a result of that, he has very high profile contacts in the entrepreneur space, including Silicon Valley. He connected me with a senior partner at a prestigious San Francisco accounting firm who immediately responded to me and asked what I needed. I told him what I needed. And this is really interesting too, relative to soothing momentum around money. I had told Mark that I would be willing to pay up to $500 to get this paperwork I needed to submit to the compliance division. Mark contacted the CPA senior partner, but didn't tell him how much I was willing to pay. So when the guy reached out to me, I explained to him what I wanted, and I expressed to him that I'd be willing to pay up to that $500. He wrote back and said he would do it for $500. And that caused my heart to sink again, because I still have stories about making bad decisions around finances. I probably could have gotten the same result if I had offered $250 or maybe $300. But instead I offered $500 and he took it. So this is so good. I was chagrined at my transparency until I talked to one of my clients who is a vice president at a global major manufacturing firm. And when I told him the story, it was like he was serving as an angel too. He helped me soothe my negative momentum on the $500 by telling me that I wasn't hiring this CPA for his technical skill or even for the result he was going to produce. The client said I was hiring him for his authority, for his gravitas as a senior partner in a prestigious accounting firm, and that $500 was actually a deal, he said. When he said this, it totally locked into my conscious awareness that, yeah, that's what I was paying for, the cachet of the accounting firm, and that was worth $500. So the senior partner, he whipped this thing around in about 24 hours and submitted it to me I reviewed it. There were a couple of errors in it. And he fixed it. And then I sent it forward to the compliance division. The compliance division, it's really interesting. The compliance division came back with one more rebuttal. And at that moment, I knew that all of the friction, the resistance I was experiencing in getting into this apartment this fall was the final push, the final vibrational push, the final reaching for the alignment necessary to rendezvous with the full-blown manifestation, showing up for me to do exactly that. And so that's what I did. Rather than getting frustrated or angry or complaining that the compliance division is picking nits and why couldn't they see that my income is legit, it's obvious when you look at my bank statements. Rather than doing all of that, I just stood in the knowing that this was beneficial. This contrast was helping me reach for and attain the vibration that had me a match to the full-blown manifestation of living in this apartment building. 2 days after I explained to the property manager what they needed to be explained with this last nit, both the senior apartment manager and the junior apartment manager called me and congratulated me. I got the final one-bedroom apartment, the same one I talked about in my previous episode, top floor, west-facing view. My move-in, as I said before, is December 12th. But that's not all. Not only did I get exactly what I had dreamt of, and it feels so good to feel this, to know this, that this was a full-blown textbook manifestation as a result of my focus. But not only did I get that, but the property manager told me that the city has a program they're going to put me in for that will pay for my total move-in costs. Now, this is important to look at. This was a cherry on top of the manifestation. This was something I was not expecting. And that's how these manifestation things work. They usually happen in not just divine timing, but in surprising and delightful ways. So back in June, when I had applied for the apartment, they had opened the apartment to fill. And I was expecting that they were probably going to fill the apartment up before my lease was up here in this apartment. The lease is due to expire on December 31st. And so I knew that the longer the process took, the better off I would be, because if, for example, the move-in date was in December, I would ultimately only have to pay for 1 month of apartment rent here and whatever prorated amount I would pay for that month at Albina One. And so as this friction was happening with the compliance division, one of the reasons why I could soothe myself was because I knew the longer it took, the better off I'd be with regard to being able to move in to the apartment without paying a whole bunch of money for this lease and for that future space. And so for the compliance division to finally approve my ability to live there by this week with a move-in on December 12th, that's going to allow me to pay, I think it's $684 for the prorated rent for the apartment I'm moving into, plus $1,000 for the rent I'm paying here at this apartment for the rest of December, plus the deposit for the future apartment of $400. But the fact that the property manager is submitting me for the move-in cost reimbursement, that is going to be $1,000. The city is going to give me $1,000 to cover my move-in costs. So ultimately, the total move-in cost for moving into this new apartment is $48 plus whatever I pay for the moving truck. So I end up paying the final month of my lease here. I don't have to break the lease and pay the 1.5 times monthly rent fee. So I get to pay the final month here through December, and then moving into the apartment at Albina One is going to cost me $48. Such a fantastic manifestation with a delicious financial cherry on top. So this is the thing, right? Manifestations are surprising and delightful. They most often exceed the expectation we have. And when you can recognize the unfolding in the midst of the unfolding, it is such a delightful perspective to have and to enjoy. And as I said at the beginning of this, it was a 2.5 year process from the moment I had the dream to seeing the building being built, to seeing the building having to be built and completed and certified to live in, and then going through the rental process, the qualification process first, and then the rental process, and then the financial qualification process. Big manifestations, castles, they take a while. And this is why it's important to either be able to cultivate patience, or from a more advanced perspective, to just stand in the having. That's what I did. And as a result, the universe had to comply with my focus. And that's how every manifestation works. You focus on the feeling of having what you want. That's the vibrational frequency that has you become a match to what you want. And then you allow the universe to do all the work. And that's what happened. Thousands of people who went into designing the building, building the building, permitting the building. Hundreds of people who fund the Albina Vision Trust, which makes building the building possible. The people at the city who are running the programs that make affordable housing possible. Thousands of people went into the fulfillment of this manifestation for me. This is the charmed life. It's been such a great week. This is just one of the several fantastic manifestations that have occurred in my life this week. We're already at 22 minutes, so I'm going to stop this here. This is an informal journal entry, so I don't have to be too formal with regard to the time, but I do want to keep it at a length that you're comfortable watching. If you're interested in finding out more about these magnificent manifestations, stay tuned, because I know out there in the future are even more powerful manifestations like this one. This one that I've enjoyed, and the ones my clients are enjoying. All right. See you in the next video.